What's up, nerds? Okay, so if you remember a little while back, I did a video on anti-ramp, and we came across a deck that was primarily using colorless stuff, and it all seemed to focus on ramping. So, for example, like this was the most dominant card, and at the time I dubbed it Tronless Tron. And after a while, I got bored and decided to start looking to see if I might be able to make my interpretation of what that might look like. And here's what we got. So, to start off with, we have in our 1-drop slot Fountain of Renewal and Manifold Key. Fountain of Renewal, all this does is give you life on your upkeeps. You can then later sacrifice it for 3 mana to draw a card. I'll be honest, this is mostly here as a placeholder card. It doesn't really do a whole lot for us except stall out the game just a little bit and gives us the option to draw a card if we're desperate enough to do so. Manifold Key, which we'll discuss why this is way more important a little bit later, is our other one, much more useful 1-drop that allows us to untap another target artifact. Less important, but still somewhat relevant. You can also make a single creature unblockable. But the main thing that we'll be doing is using it to untap artifacts, because we do have a couple of artifacts that multiply mana. This I want to have a few more copies of, maybe 1 or 2 more copies. But in my 2-drop slot, I have Maze Mine Tome. You can tap it to scry, but most often what you'll do is you'll be tapping and playing 2 mana to draw a card. Of course, you can only do this 4 times before the card gets exiled, but you get 4 life off of it as well. This is not the most efficient way to draw cards, obviously, but as you'll see later on, once you get to a certain point in the game, you are constantly capable of having extra mana, more mana than necessary. Next we have Mind Stone. This either taps to add mana, or you can sacrifice it to draw a card for only 1 mana, which is actually pretty fair. Foundry Inspector, I have 3 of these in here, mostly because they're not necessary. All they do is decrease the cost of our artifacts by 1, which can be useful, but it doesn't come up a lot. Paladin Mirror, this one, it's literally a 2/2 for 3, and it taps for 2 colorless mana. Nothing, super fancy about it. The fact that it's a creature and a very easily burnt creature is a bit of a drawback on this card, but because you can untap it and get extra mana off of it when you combine it with Manifold Key, it's worth a spot. Next, also goes with the Manifold Key, is Power Stone, or the 3-drop. You get to add a colors to it for your to your mana pool for each artifact you control named Power Stone Shard. I've gotten it to where I had 3 of these on the battlefield once, but usually it only taps, or it's only going to tap for 1, and every so often you'll have 2 of them that'll tap for 2, which is pretty sweet. The fact that this is something that multiplies is great. Next, you have Hedron Archive, which is a little bit pricey on the mana side, but the payoff is, it's double Mind Stone. It costs twice the amount of Mind Stone. It gives you twice the amount of mana, and for twice the amount of mana, you can draw twice the number of cards. So, it's just more expensive and better Mind Stone. It's Mind Stone times 2. Now we start getting into the payoff, because again, this is all just like ramp and setup stuff. So now we get into the payoff. We have, this one is a combination of payoff and helps us out, but it makes it to where spells your opponent's cast cost 2 more to cast, and then you do 1 damage to them at your end step. That second half actually is not all that relevant just because of what our end game is, but it could be because we have alternative methods of winning. We have Ugin the Ineffable. The important part of this one is it makes your colorless spells cost 2 less to cast, which, that combined with Foundry Inspector makes most of this deck completely free. But let's take a look at the rest of it. So it costs 6 mana, it comes with 4 loyalty. You can +1 it to exile the top card of your library face down. You can look at it whenever you want to. And then you can create a 2/2 colorless spirit creature token, and when that token leaves the battlefield, you can put the exile card into your hand. So it's kind of like stash draw, which is pretty cool. And then, of course, you can destroy one target colored permanent, and permanent being very broad is extremely useful. Next, we have Ugin the Spirit Dragon, the OG himself, and by far my most favored Planeswalker of all time. I don't know if it's my favorite Magic card. It might be my favorite Magic card, but it's my favorite Planeswalker. Anyway, Ugin comes in with 7, costs 8. You can +2 him to do 3 damage to any target. You can minus X him to exile each permanent with a CMC with X or less that is 1 or more colors. So the awesome part about that is it doesn't affect any of our stuff, making him insanely overpowered in this. But yeah, he pretty much is just a like, you can drop him down and up to 7 CMC, everything is board wiped. The ultimate does not happen often, but it does sometimes happen. Gain 7 life, draw 7 cards, put up to 7 permanent cards from your hand onto the battlefield, which is really great if we have our last card here, Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger. This deck is literally 100% just about getting this guy out, because as soon as this guy gets out, 9 times out of 10 our opponent's going to quit, and that last 1 time out of 10 we just get to enjoy raffle stomping them. But let's go over the card again. 10 mana, indestructible, 10/10. When you cast it, you exile 2 permanents, sending your opponent back, and whenever it attacks defending player, exiles the top 20 cards of the library. But it is a 10/10, so I mean, it would literally just be a race of, do we mill them out or do we smack them down? Now, for once, we're actually going to take a little bit more of a detailed look at what our mana base looks like. So first of all, I want more of this. Blast Zone. This is part of an alternative win con where you can just load this thing up and blow your opponent in the face. And then EBFs with the charge counter, you can use it to tap for colorless mana, and then you can also load up charge counters on it, and later to sacrifice to destroy each non-land permanent with mana cost equals the number of charge counters on Blast Zone. So yeah, this is okay. So it's not an alternative win con, but it's an alternative way to set your opponent really far back. I want more, like I said, I want more of this. There are a couple lands in here I would totally remove just to have 3 or 4 of it, but it's a rare, and I'm not going to spend a bunch of stuff on rares at the moment. Next, we have Buried Ruin, another one of the more useful lands. You can sacrifice it to return target artifact from your graveyard to your hand. And since we will occasionally sacrifice Hedron Archive or Mindstone, or every once in a while they get put into the graveyard, being able to get those back is definitely really important. So that's good. That's very useful, and this is another one I probably wouldn't mind getting an extra one of. We have Crawling Barrens. I will gladly toss this out of the deck as soon as I can because what it does is pretty irrelevant. Emergence Zone, it basically allows you to sacrifice it in order to give your spells flash, which, surprise, Ulamog, is really funny. So yeah, I've got 4 of those. Inventor's Fair, another one I wish I had a few more of. I will admit it has limited use because you'll note that Ugin and Ulamog, none of them are artifacts. Everything else in the deck is an artifact. However, both Ugin the Ineffable and Ugin the Spirit Dragon are much more useful utility than everything else in here, and Ulamog is literally how we win the game. And the fact that I can't use Inventor's Fair to search for either one of them means it's only okay in this deck. We can use it to go get more tools than out the deck, but ultimately this is just a colorless land that can sometimes be helpful. Labyrinth of Scophos. I do have one. I probably wouldn't cry too hard about tossing it out. It is useful. You can remove an attacking or blocking creature from combat, which means if you have this and 4 other mana open, which might happen, it hasn't yet, you can take that, whatever it is that they're swinging at you, and toss it aside. Radiant Fountain, it's kind of nice, it's a land that gives you 2 life, and since we don't care at all about color, Why not put it in there? Reliquary Tower. You have no maximum hand size. Usually not a problem. We are constantly dropping stuff on the battlefield. But hey, why not? And Sunscorched Desert. When it enters the battlefield, it does 1 damage to target player or planeswalker. I care more about the planeswalker part than player, but we can technically chip damage our opponent down with that and Godfarrow's statue, and then the Mirror and the Founder Inspector, and whatever damage they do to themselves with Shocklands. So it's possible, but most of the time we're just gonna drop Ulamog and go GG, bro. Alright, well, now that I've spent 10 minutes talking about the deck, let's go ahead and see how it plays. We will be looking at this deck in another video. Alright. Tom Dean, 1983. Alright, cyclic, what we got? We have Ugin the Ineffable, Godfarrow statue. We have really useful top-end stuff, but we're going to have to luck into gaining other stuff, which I don't really like. But we can also gain life every turn right off the bat, plus we can sacrifice it later if necessary. I guess we'll try it. I'm doing this mostly to be adventurous. See what happens kind of deal. Cool, we get some life. We chip some damage out of our opponent. We get another Fountain of Renewal. If I can find in an artifact that Umbrella's giving them the ability to turn into mana rocks, that would be sweet. So far, no such thing has happened. So we will go ahead and put down a Radiant Fountain. And then we will just end the turn from there. I will most likely crack one. Okay. That's fine, that doesn't really do anything for us. Against us, I mean.
To stand down now.
Okay. It's annoying, but whatever.
Markov grows stronger.
Alright, so we get another life. Of course, now we get Power Shard. So we use Sunscorched Desert and take out the Sorin. Because we really do not need to be dealing with that. So let's see, we can put down Hadrian Archive and then we'll have access to 2 more mana just from that. Or we can put down Power Shard and... no, never mind. That doesn't do what I was hoping it does. In that case, it may make more sense just to play Paladin Mirror. No, because we can crack the Fountain of Renewal if we put down a Hadrian Archive. So we're going to put down a Hadrian Archive. And then next turn we will... no, I guess I miscalculated. I did miscalculate. Whatever. Alright, look at that! Doubling down on the vampire triggers. And I am going to double down on...
Every exploit ripples through time.
On the, I didn't even finish my sentence. I was too focused on, dropping the Planeswalker, but yeah, I'm gonna focus on, I guess, losing that creature. That's okay, Manifold Key is a free cost. Free now. Yeah, it makes sense. I would probably do that too.
That was not wise.
That was not wise, he says. Alright, I'm gonna put this down. Tap Hadrian Archive to add 2 mana. Then I'm gonna put down a Power Stone Shard. And another Power Stone Shard. And then I'm going to tap this Power Stone shard over here to then tap the Manifold Key to untap the Ancient Archive. Then I'm going to play God Pharaoh's statue to really set them back. Then I'm going to play Paladin Mirror. Then I'm going to play Paladin Mirror. And then I'm going to play Hedron Archive. And then I'm going to do this exile the top card of your library thing.
Lies beyond
And
vision.
let's see. I can crack this Vaunted Renewal later. So the main thing that I've done is with the taxing effect on God Pharaoh's statue, I've really made it harder for him to cast stuff, especially since he's in a color set that doesn't ramp very well as it is. See, look at that. He just had to spend all of his mana just to use Grim Tutor. And he can't even play whatever he tutored until next turn. Now the problem is we don't have our win con at the moment. What we have is ramp and the ability to draw. But until we get Ulamog, we haven't officially locked this game up. Yeah, so we can figure out a way to do a ton of chip damage. That doesn't help. Alright, Radiant Fountain. Manifold Key for free. So we're going to tap the Hedron Archive. Tap the Hedron Archive. Untap the Hedron Archive. Untap the Hedron Archive. Then we will sacrifice the Hedron Archive. No help. And then we are going to once again sacrifice the Hedron Archive. Okay. Didn't get what we were looking for. Still got something good. We are going to go ahead and play Ugin the Spirit Dragon. And then play Mallet over here.
Knowledge is rotting fruit.
So, I think we will go ahead and X out all of his creatures. That was an unpleasant combo.
Ether itself serves me.
And I guess just because we're not getting Ulamog at the moment, doing it some actual damage, not a terrible idea. Alright, taking out a Planeswalker.
Matters to attend to.
There we are. And he quits. That's what happens most of the time. As soon as you hit the Ulamog, you win. Because ain't nobody got time for that, am I right? That was fun. Let's do that again. Got to tap a bunch of stuff, got to untap a bunch of stuff, got to play 2 Ugins and an Ulamog. I mean, what could be a more awesome game? Especially when we were starting off with such a sketchy hand. Like, there was no guaranteed play until turn 4. Still made it. I will admit, though, this deck does terrible against fast decks. Okay. 2 Foundry Inspectors, useful. Ugin the Ineffable, and most likely the ability to get to it. Oh, that's right, he's not an artifact, so... this is another one I'll risk. I find a lot of times that risky hands aren't all that risky. In this deck. See, he's the life gain deck, but I gain life first. So, how'd you like that? Alright, and then we will just end the turn. Soul Warden. And unfortunately, we're gonna play right into that. Heedless Hawk. Resolve all. Alright, we will play Reliquary Tower, and then we will play Foundry Inspector, actually. Alright. So I think this is just straight up gonna be a race. Okay, Maze Mine Tome, Foundry Inspector. If I put down another Foundry Inspector, both of those become free. But I also don't have a whole lot of mana left after that. Whatever, that's fine. And then, oh, the problem is I need the ramp, so I can't sack it for mana. So we'll just end the turn there. Okay. If he comes out with a walking ballista, that's when we're screwed. This is pleasant. Yikes! Should not have kept his hand. Well, all that happened, and it was unpleasant. I don't even know if I can do anything with this that makes a significant difference.
Multiverse.
Like, what can we do with this particular situation that would actually help? We already have them making angels, which is a constant problem. Helioid can't be destroyed. I guess we're just gonna have to can out Resplendent Angel.
Be gone, interloper.
It doesn't do a whole lot for our bottom line, but... Of course. Look at the way these triggers stack. This is insane. This is what a good life gain deck is all about. Might be dead here though. Got 5, 9. Excuse me, 9 already. Dude, stop. It's way too much. Oh goodness. I mean, is it worth it to even try saving myself? The only thing that could help me right now is drawing an Ulamog or another Ugin. And ugh. The Foundry Inspectors do make my stuff cheaper. I think, honestly, next turn, if I don't get whatever I need to save my butt, which the Foundry Inspectors would help me get, I would just die anyway, even if I didn't have all the... Oh my goodness, so many triggers, dude, come on. We get it, you know how to stack them. Oh, getting so annoyed. Okay. So yeah, Mind Stone being free is actually kind of helpful. Now I get the Ugin. Alright, well. We will concede. Honestly, I'm not certain that with 52 life, getting an Ugin would matter at that point. Yeah, we need to be capable of exiling their board a lot sooner than that. Let's do one more round of Tronless Tron. And then call it a night, or actually morning at the moment. Not that it matters. Okay, Manifold Key into Mind Stones. I mean, it's all early game stuff, but that's not necessarily bad. You'd be capable of being able to crack the Mind Stones for new stuff. Or the Fountain. Speaking of fountains, we'll go Radiant Fountain to Fountain of Renewal. So many fountains! So much water! Get some life, play some land, play Mind Stone, use Mind Stone to play Manifold Key. Look at the art on this thing. It's like a little brain inside of a scepter with a bunch of keys coming off of it. Alright, gained some life, played an Emergent Zone. Play the Mind Stone. Sacrifice the Mind Stone. There we go, that's pretty cool. Can't do anything with it though. I didn't have to sacrifice the Mind Stone. If I didn't sacrifice the Mind Stone, I should say. Because it wasn't really necessary. I'd be able to play that next turn. Alright, put down a Reliquary Tower. And see what that gets us. It gets us another Manifold Key. It's not helpful. It's okay. Next turn, we can play Ugin. And that honestly doesn't really help a lot either.
Until we achieve peace, we must fight for a better tomorrow. I am proud of those who walk beside me.
This deck struggles sometimes. It really does. It is fairly inefficient. Let's see. If we put Hedron down, we can tap it to make 2, and then untap it to make 2 more. I think we'd just be wasting mana at that point, though. We'll put Ugin down.
When you understand reality,
Now, I can either use this to get rid of the Aerialist, get rid of a Johnny, or I can use it to put a creature onto the battlefield. That also kind of draws me a card. Huh. I mean, if I do anything but the +1, I just straight up lose him. So, yeah, we're gonna have to +1 him. And I already run the risk of losing him anyway, depending on how much life gaining happens to Bloodthirsty area, while Bloodthirsty area are down. What is with all of these life gain focused decks?
the soul.
And I guess there's a lot of stuff going on for it, but yeah, they're going after Ugin. That makes a lot of sense, actually. We are going after the card.
You have air.
There we go. Okay. Calling Bowens, Power Stone Shard, Hedron Archive, and God Pharaoh Statue. And then we sacrifice this thing. And then we untap this thing. That didn't do anything useful, actually. Alright, I think we'll continue to make stuff.
Secrets manifest before you.
And then we will end the turn. It's a little late to be setting our opponent back, I think, on the ability to cast. But if we can pull Ugin the Spirit Dragon anytime soon, we have the mana.
We thrive when we support one another.
That or Ulamog. But I don't know if we can cast Ulamog right now.
Another time, Planeswalker.
Alright, we will do Sunscorched Desert. Damage the Planeswalker.
Cease your selfish acts.
So we're going to tap this for 2 mana. Untap it. Tap this for 2 mana. Untap it. Sacrifice it for 2 mana. Play the Mind Stone. Sacrifice it. Bounce in the renewal. And no attacks. Enter. Dang. I am telling you, these life gain decks are just absolute powerhouses.
True strength lies in our friendships.
Ugh. If we don't get what we need soon, we're done for. Oh, I'm digging. Block. A lot of Mind Stone. Okay, we'll put down Buried Ruin. We'll sacrifice Buried Ruin and go get Hedron Archive. Play Hedron Archive. Tap it for mana. Untap it. Tap it for mana. Untap it. Sacrifice it again. Ah, no! Mind Stone Fountain. Oh, I'm dead. Oh wow. Well, the first game proves that this deck can function, and it can function even with a bad hand. Oops, glitched out there. The second game, though, proved that like keeping sketchy hands is still really bad. But ultimately, I think we saw some success. If nothing else, we had some really fun gameplay. So, thanks y'all for watching. Have a great rest of the day.